Hello.
Hi, Denise. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks. I apologize, though. My neighbor has some roof work going on. What are the chances? What are the
Life.
chances? So sorry about that. What are you going to do?
Nothing. Well, there's nothing you can do, and it's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
Well, hello and welcome to Redefining the Significance of You Time for You, by you, because of you. My name is Denise Drinkwalter, and I'm an empowerment life coach supporting women around the world to lean in and realize the importance of you. The goal of this channel is to provide you, the viewer, some takeaways that will help you shift, change, reevaluate, and or become more aware of what is totally possible for you. We have a variety of incredible guests who will be sharing their life experiences that have helped them become the incredible human beings that they are today. Every one of us, sometime in our lives, have had that infamous free time where we feel guilty, embarrassed, and or wrong for taking time for ourselves, and we are here to change that, support you to see what is possible for you when you take the time for you, by you, because of you. It is an absolute honor and privilege to have Sue, and let me say, if it's wrong, tell me. It's Donnellan, is that right?
Right.
Okay, perfect. Here as a guest today. Sue helps a very steady stream of clients who are seeking assistance with their parenting challenging behaviors in their children. She began mentoring parents over 15 years ago and has helped over 300 plus families through her work, which includes speaking engagements and free parenting classes. She's raised 4 kids, including surprise triplets. Oh my goodness, I read this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing. She runs 2 of her own businesses and supports a husband who was deployed to combat 5 times. Going from 1 to 4 children overnight, like literally overnight, right?
Yes.
Managing the dynamics of all that entails while being an entrepreneur is what helped Sue develop successful methods for handling bad behaviors. Some examples are tantrums, talking back, and meltdowns. Welcome, Sue. I can't wait to hear more. Oh my goodness, 4 overnight.
Yeah.
How old is everybody now?
They're all in college and graduated. So the triplets are 21 and our oldest is 24. So it's all in my rearview mirror, which I think gives me some extra value in terms of having gone through all the phases and being able to say with confidence what works and what doesn't. So
I love that. So how do you do all that you have done? What is something that's so important that is pivotal in terms of anybody who's listening, who's like struggling just to function right now? What's something you could share that will help them even in the moment, if that's possible?
yeah, well, the one thing is that what I've learned is that it's all about us, right? So once we let go of control, once we stop feeling guilt, once we need to empower ourselves first. We need to get in touch with what we're doing as to what's working and what's not. And if we're seeing that we're getting pushback from certain people, or our children or our relationships are full of chaos, we need to put the mirror on ourselves first and own whatever we're experiencing and figure out how can we show up differently, how can we change our reactions, our methods. And that's what led me to better parenting, is just that awareness and learning that if my kids are giving me pushback, how can I redirect, how can I figure out other ways to approach. So in terms of handling it all, that's really when we realize that we have the power of choice every single day, every single minute. It's so empowering and it's so freeing, and just letting go of control of how we think things need to unfold. It's powerful, very powerful.
So I can't believe how aligned we are. I just love what you're saying about the empowerment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we tend to, as moms in particular, everything has to run a certain way, and we reflect when it isn't working, it's our fault. But I love how you're saying you need to look at those behaviors, let's say, of the children as a lens that something isn't working. They're trying to message you. Would you say
Oh,
that's right?
wow.
Or
Yes. Yes. And it takes letting go of our ego, letting go of control, really showing up differently, to get a different result. So there's a lot of counterintuitive thinking there that, we think we have to fix the child when we have bad behavior. Whereas, no, it starts with us and how we are showing up and how we're responding to the behavior. And that was a big shift for me when I was overwhelmed. I'm a type A, do it because I said, right? It took me a long time to realize that kids are adults in training and they're blank slates. And, I had so many funny moments where my daughter especially would say certain things or do certain things that I was like, wow, I needed to do that differently, or I had to respond differently. But wow, that was her perspective. Life is about perspective, and it's not up to me to inflict my perspective on everyone else, because when I'm doing that and I'm seeing I'm getting pushback, then I need to stop and reassess what I'm saying, what I'm doing, how I'm doing that. And if I want a different result, it starts with me. And that's a big shift. So,
it's a huge shift, right?
yes. Yes.
Because of all that responsibility. And you think, okay, well, I have the responsibility. But I think what you're talking about is even bigger responsibility by looking in the mirror for the messages you're receiving.
Right.
So could I just query, what do you suggest if I'm going to give you a scenario? I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's try it.
Okay.
If I give you a scenario and there's a temper tantrum going down in the middle of an audience, say a store, what do I do with that?
Well, the trick and the secret is working in advance. So, if I get surprised by a tantrum in the middle of the store, that's on me. I say, okay, note to self, let's prepare for this. Let's plan. When I work with parents, and the ways that I worked with my own kids is that I establish looking for patterns. And if a behavior happens twice, that's a pattern. First time, I'm surprised. Second time, I go, ooh, you know what? I needed to have handled that. So if I'm in the middle of a store and there's a tantrum, I'm going to say to myself, oh, we're in the tantrum phase right now. Or it depends on the age of the child. But, terrible twos, terrible threes. I say, okay, so now I need to take time for training. I go, I'm not going to get surprised with this again. So if I'm in the middle of that, I will drop everything and I will just quietly, I'm a big fan of action, not words many times. Words are powerful for sure, but depending on the age of the child, if, action, not words, I'm not going to get down on their level and try to negotiate with a child in the middle of a tantrum. That really does not work. So what I'll do is I'll drop everything and I'll take the child out and we'll go in the car and maybe we'll just sit in silence for a little bit and I'll just let her or him work it out. It's like anytime, if you're fighting with your spouse or you're fighting with anybody, approaching it in that moment isn't always the best, most successful way to handle that. So that's what I would do. But then the real value of that experience is going back and going, okay, I'm in a phase of tantrums. Now let's see, am I getting this a lot at home? One of the things that I tell parents is that if you're getting tantrums out in public, the best way to take care of it is in private and in your home. If you're taking care of these behaviors at home, you don't get them out in public. You just don't. Occasionally it will happen. Never say never, but for the most part, things that are being taken care of at home don't really rear their ugly heads out in public. So I would then go back and I would create a scenario with which, depending on the tantrum that was happening, if I think it's just a quick little phase, then I'll just let them, live through that. And I won't really make a big deal about it because I know that it's not going to be forever. But depending on the behavior, if they're grabbing for candy and they're demanding they want candy or a drink or whatever, then we're going to go to the store and we're going to take time for training, and we're going to tell the child we're going to the store. I don't want, you're not getting any candy. I'm going to lay the groundwork up front, and here are my expectations. We're going to go shopping. This is what's happening. I'm getting it on my list. We're not getting anything else. We're going to take time for training. And then if the child then starts to melt down or throws another tantrum, now we say, what did we agree to? How did we say we were going to handle this? Is the candy on mommy's list? So training.
Nice.
And I'm telling you, if you do that once, it's really, the child understands this is the expectation. This is what mom means. And if I'm taking time for training, then I have absolutely no problem dropping everything and leaving the store, because this is a training expedition. I knew this up front going in, that This is how we're handling it. And that scenario can be duplicated and repeated at every phase throughout, even through teenage years, believe it or not. So it's a mentality. It's an approach to parenting that I teach. Very foundational, very, very basic, but just a lot of common sense and counterintuitive thinking.
Right. Do you find that the clients that come to you are at a point of no return? They're like, I've tried everything. Or do you find that people find you before that?
No one finds before, because, when parenting, we're very busy and we have a lot of ideas. We come to this parenting business from our background, what our parents showed us, what we think we're going to do differently. And there's really no way to prepare for parenting. I mean, you really have to just be in the moment and go, well, I find that most moms and dads that I work with are at a point of overwhelm where they think they had it handled. They're behaving a certain way with their child. They're handling it in a certain way, and it's not working. And I talk about in my book that I was yelling all the time, and I thought that would work. The more I raise my voice, the more I'm in business. So, yeah, that's not how it works. So we get to that point of overwhelm to where we think, I'm out of ideas. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. One thing you shared in your notes was how successful your strategies are. And I think that's exactly why people are reaching out, because they know what you said. What I'm doing isn't working and I don't know why. So what you are talking about is empowering not only yourself, but I'm hearing you're training your child so that they can see that they're a part of this. It's not top down. They have a responsibility.
100%. That's a really eloquent way of putting it. Right. If I'm going to put the mirror on myself and I'm going to admit mistakes and I'm going to lose my ego and I'm going to learn from my children, that's what they learn. Then they drop their guard. We can raise our kids without their ego involved, and they don't have to have their dukes up fighting our ego. And 100%, we are the role models, and I teach a lot of leadership as a parent. I mean, that our children need leadership. And I think sometimes parents forget to define themselves as that. We get so caught up in the moment. And I think we forget to kind of boost ourselves as like we're leaders, and we think we're leaders, out in our jobs, and we take that role on, but then we kind of drop that role at home. We become almost more dictatorial or authoritative, or we use punishment methods. And if we're honest with ourselves, they don't work. It doesn't work. So you're right. The kids learn from us, and that does kind of trickle down. And it is all about accountability, for sure.
I love that, because I would imagine that when this opportunity of learning and growth happens through your strategies, your techniques you share, how-tos, then you want not only empower the children, but like you say, it trickles down. It probably trickles across. It probably trickles like into the workplace as they get older. Like you say, you still use the same strategy, even though they're much older. and they're going to land on it. They're going to understand it because it's the way that you've been doing it all the way along. So it's not a surprise to them, right?
Right. It's very foundational, very, very just these techniques and the way that we think and approach our parenting and our child with respect and partnership and accountability and independence and an ability to make their own decisions, empowered through, our supervision. And as they get older and they prove the ability to make good decisions, they get more freedom to make decisions. It's a lot of freedom within boundaries. Then those boundaries expand as we see their comprehension of those boundaries and responsibility and things like that. So it's very much a partnership and respect-based method that I use and that I teach. And it just really works, and it works quickly. It really does.
Right? I was going to ask, how long does this take before it starts working, right?
If you're a parent who's coming to me with an understanding that they need to change their approach, it works very quickly. And we talk a lot about backing up. There's I talk about a yarn ball of chaos where we're just in this fray, and how to back that up, look for patterns, and approach things from parenting in advance kind of state of mind. And when you do that, it sounds, oh my gosh, it feels so overwhelming in the beginning. But once you realize that life is phase and pattern, and you learn how to spot that, you're using this for everything, for every relationship. It's so exhilarating to see the results of how this works.
Aw, isn't that amazing? That's why you have 300 plus, and it will be growing. It will be growing and growing and growing, I'm sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I've got some questions here that I want to make sure I ask. What is the number one gift that we can instill in our child or children?
Well, it's kind of counterintuitive. Like I say, it's not what everyone would think, but one of the things that when I look back at my parenting and I see how the layered effects of parenting took effect with the kids is like helping our kids find their purpose and their passion and where they'll make a difference. And it was a very intentional effort to instill the reason to get out of bed. And of course, it can change. But if we're infusing our child with the mentality of what's your passion and what's your purpose and what are you good at, we're coming at parenting from less ego because we're about them and discovering themselves. And I was very big about intuitive thinking and just connecting with your gut and your intuitive self and listening to your instincts. And wow, does that really help a child as they get into the teen years and as they're faced with peer pressure and decision making and things like that, their gut, listening to that hair raising, and it allows them to not really follow the crowd as much and to have the confidence in themselves. But finding their purpose really just helps with their mental health as well, because now they're getting out of bed and having a sense of purpose, and their day is planned, and they've got discipline, and they've got a spring to their step. And even though my daughter may have thought she wanted to be a vet when she was in kindergarten, I connected with her again at 10. I said, just because you said that in kindergarten doesn't mean that's how. And she was given permission to sort of pivot and think of, what do I want? And every little effort in parenting is an all day, 24-hour a day thing. Every phase, every phrase that I uttered was about find your gut, find what gives you purpose. Where are you going to make a difference in the world? And they're not as prone to, being wishy-washy and following the crowd and following, marketing and advertising and social media. They know where they stand, and they have that self-esteem, and they have that confidence. And I just found really making an intentional effort to help them find their purpose was one of the best gifts that we ever did.
Amazing. Would you say that is there ever a time that's too late to change your parenting?
No, never. What I find is children are so forgiving, and we just don't realize just how important that connection is and that relationship is to the children. I see it with my kids' friends who wish they had better relationships with their parents. It's so obvious
Yeah.
and heartbreaking. My kids even come to me and say, what their friends and what. So that relationship is always available to you if you, again, put the mirror on yourself and come to the child and say, I may have made a mistake, or where are you? How are you
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah.
Let's check in with you. But if you're allowing your child to find their purpose all along and helping them wind them up to that, to that
Mhm.
area of what's interesting to them and where they think they're going to add value,
Mhm.
then that relationship just sort of falls into place with you as their parent.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. I get that question a lot. Oh, it's too late. There is
Never
no
too late.
time.
Never, ever too late.
No.
You hear people connecting with their children on their deathbed, right? You hear a child talking about how they connected with their parent on deathbed. It's never ever too late. That's a beautiful innate relationship between a parent and a child. And as long as we're willing to take ownership of our behavior and our words and how we're showing up, it will always be there. It will always be nurtured. It can always be, just nurtured
Absolutely.
into a great, respectful relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Starting with ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
It's always starting with ourselves. Yes.
Mhm. Love it. Tell us about the book. You've
Well,
written a book.
yes. I wrote the book mostly through the parenting or through the teenage years because
Yep.
then it was such a stressful time.
Yeah.
And I saw how other parents were punishing and using restrictive methods, and restriction creates rebellion, and they just didn't seem to
Mm.
get that right. So anyway, I was motivated to write the book, as I had been helping so many parents for so long. So it's Secrets to Parenting Without Giving an F.
Yep.
And it's written in that the first half is about your relationship with yourself. And the second half is taking that information, letting go of control, not doing guilt, all of that. The second half is your relationship with your child so that you can take all the
Yep.
things that you've learned and apply them to respectful, using respect and partnership parenting, and punishment is pointless, right? So it takes you through, A to Z. It's
Mhm.
really a book that is, at any age you can pick it up and get value as to how to parent your child and get a better relationship and get behavior to change relatively quickly.
Love it. Perfect. We will definitely put in the show notes all that information and how to contact you, because I believe, I'm just going to check here, you are on Instagram and on Facebook, right?
Yes.
So,
Under Ask Mom Parenting.
right, no spaces, no dots, just Ask
No.
Mom Parenting.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Brilliant. We will put all that in the show notes and see where you can get the book from Amazon, right?
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. Oh, been an absolute pleasure having you here today.
Thanks, Denise.
My heart is just so full. I'm like, yes, there's a reason why we connected.
Yes, thank
Amazing.
you.
Keep doing the work you're doing. The world will benefit, and I'm so grateful to have had you here today.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to speak and to talk to, all your listeners. And I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you haven't been part of our weekly newsletters, make sure that you jump into and subscribe. We give encouraging tips every week, strategies, newsletters twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. And if you are struggling, Mom, we have a free Facebook group as well called Mom Struggling Support Group. We would love to have you in there. We are there for full support, whatever we can do to help you on this journey. We are here for it. So again, thank you, Sue, for being here. And we make sure you reach out and find Sue on Instagram, Facebook, and check her book out. It will be in the show notes. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.